Welcome to the first Endeavor Romania gathering in London. It's the first time we're doing this type of event in London, and we've chosen this place not by accident, obviously. Some Romanians know this story, some don't. Obviously, the foreigners probably do not know the story, but Ion Rațiu is a very special type of Romanian. And he was an entrepreneur, and he was a philanthropist, and he's famous for at least two things that I want you to take home when you leave, and the Romanians may know this story. First is actually acting against the mob, like 30 years ago, when he single-handedly reversed the course of history, I would say, by standing on his own in front of a crazy and disorganized mob in the Romanian parliament. The second one, I don't think it's that known, is that in 1977, he strapped himself at the Ritz-Carlton Hotel in London to protest the fact that the Queen, sorry? Claridge's, yeah. Well, the biographer kind of got it wrong, maybe. But in order to protest the fact that the Queen was kind of condoning the Romanian dictator at that point in time. So he was a maverick type of person. And it is not by accident that we're doing it here, because he was also an entrepreneur. And if his story tells something, is that Romanians can actually make it in any geography. And actually Romanians are no less equipped than any other people on the planet to succeed and to make an impact and have an impact around the world. And I like this story because it's also the story of Endeavor. And I think, you know, we are also a community of high-impact entrepreneurs around the world, entrepreneurs who are helping other entrepreneurs grow and scale their businesses. And I'm very grateful today for having David here with me, because it is through David that I actually got closer to Mr. Nicolae Rațiu, who was kind enough to offer this place for us. We like the fact that Romanians know about this place. We also hear that Romanians want to integrate in the global citizenship type of movement, which is great. But you can do that without kind of, you know, stripping your clothes of being Romanian. So that's why this place is amazing, because it's also resembling us. We could not have done this without our partners, Oric, How2Web, and Global Tech Connect, and we are trying to start today something that we want to continue in the years to come. The search for Romanian entrepreneurs in other ecosystems. We try to find them, we try to use their experience, we try to use their experience to give back to other entrepreneurs. But it's by looking at the figures we can realize where we came from and what we have achieved. And in 27 years of operations, we've opened 42 markets around the world. We have selected and invested into a lot of unicorns. 77 companies are companies that have exceeded in valuation over $1 billion. And the fund that we have set up in 2011 has invested in probably around 55 of them. The impact is quite easy to see. The numbers speak for themselves, but I think the biggest value that we have and the biggest thing that we take after we have done our work is the community of people that have started helping other people scale up, dream big, and show that really entrepreneurs can come from all the places in the world. And if it's a supporter of entrepreneurs from emerging markets, we want that supporter of choice be Endeavor. And in fact, it's a nice parallel with what Romania has started doing about 10 years ago and what Romania has achieved right now. And by no means the journey is over, the journey continues, but for example, we've tried to look, 10 years ago, how the ecosystem in Romania looked like. And we've tried to count, the successes, the entrepreneurs, the incubators. And as you can see, in 2014, we had 5 incubators and one notable startup conference. And right now, if you look only at this indicator, we have 13 incubators and accelerators, 2 large conferences, and we are counting several other initiatives that we are seeing in the ecosystem. Interesting enough, the investors' landscape has changed completely. In 2014, we had 4 VC funds. None of them was necessarily Romanian. And basically the investments that were taking place back then did not amount to more than $20 million per year. Now we have 13 VC funds. 7 of them are Romanians, set up by Romanians. And last year we've invested, and they have invested about $130 million in almost 65 or almost 70 transactions. But, you know, community, investors, but to bridge that gap, we are also looking at business angels. We've seen a lot of business angels developing over the last 10 years. And again, if you look at what was available back then, there was one group of investors, tech angels, which had been started actually in 2013, so it was only 1 year old. Now we have 6 investors, 6 angel investor groups, and their investments are still small by the standards of a community of angel investors. But if you take into account that 10 years ago we didn't have virtually anything, right now we have almost $5 million per year in angel investments. And, you know, if you only take this home, you can see here what a difference 10-year can make. In 2013, we had 2.9 million, we counted, 2.9 million euros in transactions. In 2023, we had 129, so almost 60 times more, right? If we only had 8 transactions then, we now have 61 transactions in 2023. Sometime in 2018, UiPath became a unicorn, and what we are seeing now is that this is the ripple effect, the multiplier effect as we call them. The fact that the experience and the expertise and the willingness of people who have been in UiPath is actually spreading across the ecosystem. So they become angels, they become investors, they also become founders in other companies. So I think that's really my message for tonight. And in order to double click on some of these issues, we decided to have a short panel, short fireside chat between Adrian Garcia Araños, who's the president of Endeavor Global, and some people who we think you know are very relevant for the new breed of entrepreneurs and supporters and investors that we have in this market. So I'm going to start with Josephine Hus, Teo Blidaruș, who is our first Endeavor entrepreneur selected from Romania, and together with Sergiu, of course, and Marius Istrate, who is a UiPath Mafia alumni, but also is the president of Tech Angels and one of the most prominent angels in Romania. So without further ado, I would like to thank you very much for being here, and I would like to invite Adrian to take over at this point in time. And I really would like you to have a good time, and I'd really like you to, you know, connect yourself with your tribe here. Come to speak to us. We'd like to help. We're here to meet as many of you as possible. So Adrian, the floor is yours.
Perfect. Okay, thanks. Well, I don't have much to add because you said it also well, and the video also does all the presentation for us, no? But last year we launched a study that was called the Unicorn Founder Pathway. And if you Google it, you'll find it. It's a beautiful graph that shows you a bit of the background of where unicorns come from and what the backgrounds were, no? And it's fascinating because as I was looking at the profiles here of who's going to sit here with me now, it follows a bit of that unicorn founder pathway. No, a lot of STEM, so a lot of engineers in the background, founders, also in tech. So I love being able to have this conversation, and now diaspora as well, which also adds to it. So I love being able to have this conversation with them. I encourage you to actually look at that unicorn founder pathway because it speaks a lot about what we see in here reflected of the multiplier effect and what that means. No, so without further ado, I'm going to call on Teo, Josephine, and Marius.
Ladies first.
And I think we can wing it a bit, but we can start with at least a tweet of who you are, what you are, all of that. So, ladies first.
Hi everyone, my name is Josephine Haas. I spent the last 5 years in Permira, which is a global private equity fund, about 80 billion assets under management. I was responsible of due diligence, but also value creation within the consumer sector and also the services sector. Before that, I was manager in I was in a insurtech business, Assurian, that you know quite well. Spent 6 years at McKinsey in London and in Paris. And before that, I had a real job. I was a semiconductor engineer in a startup. Nice to meet you all.
Because
thank you for having me.
McKinsey is not a real job. That sounds hardcore.
Yes.
I mean, that sounds hardcore. By the way, Assurian, which makes it sound, I mean, that became the first unicorn out of Nashville. So that was a biggie back in the insurtech space.
Founders first.
So my name is Theo. I'm a technologist. I think I've spent what's now probably 28 years in IT or technology for financial services. Managed to build 3 companies, 2 of them with my friend Sergio here, or Sergio, how his name kind of evolved over the years, so that people don't call him Sergey anymore. I think, Sergio just sounds nicer. Look, I'm an entrepreneur. This is my 3rd company, as I said. We started FinTech OS together like 6.5 years ago. We were able to build a good company in Softelligence, which was my previous company. Started, bootstrapped it, got acquired last year. Nice exit. Everybody was happy. With FinTech OS, we're pretty much looking to help the banking, the insurance, the financial services markets evolve. If I would quote one of your ex-colleagues at McKinsey from last night, we're one of the few, if not the only one, who is actually trying to tackle the impossible problem of translating or transposing or transforming the big elephants in the space. So not only the neo banks, but actually the banks that are systemic and are fundamentally foundational for the economy, and that's sometimes not fun, but most of the time is fun. Really happy to be here. I'm a big believer in Endeavor, thank you. Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you. Marius Istrate. I'm also a former semiconductor engineer back in the day when I had a real job. So just so you know, it's a mob here. Also a technologist, worked as an engineer for many years, then used to lead a company in IT recruitment and IT assessment of skills called Skill Value for a number of years. This is how I got to know a small startup called UiPath back in 2016 after their seed, became their chief people officer throughout their entire hypergrowth phase. And expansion, and now proudly leading the oldest and largest business angel group in Romania called Tech Angels, established by a group of friends and visionaries in 2013, but has grown thanks to the efforts of my colleagues to about 140 people right now, investing roughly 3-4 million, between 3 and 4 million euro per year in the past 3-4 years, especially in Romanian founders. So not necessarily Romanian startups, but Romanian founders, wherever they might be. So obviously, as such, our mission to support these founders aligns to a great extent with what Endeavor does. A pleasure to be here and a pleasure to be back in London. I'll be honest with you, I only come back to London for a UiPath Mafia sort of event once per year. But this is my first time doing something other than that in the past 5 years. So. Yeah, this is going to be fun.
So it's fascinating that we were speaking about this whole multiplier effect, and it's kind of hard to grapple what that means because it sounds but the first thing I'm going to do is going to rewind a bit. Now, what do we do at Endeavor? We're a nonprofit that focuses on supporting what we call high impact entrepreneurs, and why we do it is because we believe that by doing that, we're providing job creation in the local economies, but also wealth and this whole multiplier effect. The multiplier effect is exactly what they are describing here. No, I mean, it's how someone starts working at this early stage startup that becomes the first unicorn of a country, that then becomes a New York Stock Exchange listed company, and then within those UiPath Mafia, one of them becomes a serial investor in Romania, and others have gone in different paths. No, but this is a huge effect that it has. Everyone thinks about UiPath and the unicorn. Perfect, that's great. But that effect that it has, it's outstanding. No, or the effect of a serial entrepreneur. It's one company, another company, another company. No, a former entrepreneur, because you didn't mention that either. So
starting companies is not that hard. Making them work is the
You mentioned an exit right there, so that's that's compelling. I guess I'd start with speaking a bit about that. Now, you lived a crazy ride there in UiPath from when it started, from when you joined to where it was as you left.
Pre-IPO.
To
1
the
year
IPO,
before
exactly.
the IPO.
So, can you tell us a bit more about that extremely crazy ride? I mean, several funding rounds, significant growth. You were in the people side, so.
Yeah. So I joined before the Series A, and I left after Series G. I think it was worth more when I left than it is right now. I can tell you that for sure. Nothing to do with me though. It's hard to put into words even right now after 4 years. I mean, it's kind of hard to describe unless you're part of the story. What I tell people right now is, I was 200% focused on what I was doing there when I was there, and I wasn't really aware of what was going on around us, kind of the impact that it was having, whether there was any impact, on other people. And I only realized what happened after I left. So, I can articulate what happened in words right now, but it doesn't describe exactly the feeling of what I was going through. It was intense. It was crazy. It was a different company every 6 months when you go through that rhythm of growth. I joined when the company had $4.5 million in annual recurring revenue, and I left when it had like 520 million in annual recurring revenue. So between these, and this happened from end of 2016 until end of 2019. I mean, imagine what that does to a company. Just think about revenue and number of people, just two indicators, right? And don't think of them in terms of vanity metrics. Please think of them just in terms of what a company of 520 million is, what a company of 50 million is, what a company of 150 million is. These are you go through all of these stages extremely fast. And what I can tell you is that it's exhilarating, but it's exhausting. It's exhausting. It's absolutely exhausting. I mean, it's difficult as it is, as Theo said. It's easy to start a company. It's difficult to make it work. But it's also difficult once things take off, to stay true to what you're trying to build, to continue, keeping this North Star of building a great company. Ultimately you want to go on the London Stock Exchange or the New York Stock Exchange. What people are looking for is whether or not you've been capable of building a great company, and whether or not you've been able to navigate these difficulties that pertain to growth in a responsible, humane manner. So yeah, it was, I don't know if I summed it up for you. I tried to bring it the human touch a little bit, because that's how I think about it. That's how I think about it right now. Maybe back in the day there was a lot of, maybe there was some vanity involved in it, because you would see the press around, this financing round, or these customers signed, or I don't know, these offices opened, this here and there around the world. There were some weird moments. Can I tell you just one, and then I'll close and hand over? We opened an office in Japan at UiPath, and it was our second largest business within UiPath was Japan. I know when you think about repetitive work, you're going to say it's for obvious reasons. It is, but we really had a strong presence there. And by the time I left, a team of approximately 450 people, the second largest flagship event of UiPath was in Tokyo each year. So things were going well. And the CEO of UiPath Japan was particularly fond of what he was doing. This is the former CEO of Barclays Bank in Asia Pacific. So this is not all right. And he joined us same time as I did. So pre-Series A, he didn't know what he was doing. So he joins and he gives an interview in Japanese press, and he says Romanians are the closest he's ever seen to the Japanese work ethic. And this was because of his experience of working with Romanians within UiPath. It's flattering to hear that from somebody. Unfortunately, it was happening at the same time that the Japanese Prime Minister was left on the tarmac at Otopen Airport to talk to himself and his wife, because our Prime Minister resigned. So precisely at the same time. But the article appeared, and it said that we have the Romanians are the closest to Japanese in terms of work ethic.
Hardworking. Not
Yeah.
necessarily hospitality, but hardworking.
Work. This was
brought up
weird,
to learn is the other
We
way
had to
around.
tell him, this is not, you haven't been to Romania. You've been to the UiPath office in Bucharest a handful of times, and that's it. You haven't been to Romania.
Probably, yeah, more
You were talking about the funding rounds and the vanity metric. From the side of an investor, and you've dealt a lot with that, what have you seen when it comes to dealing with founders, speaking with founders, how that vanity plays a role in it?
Yeah, definitely it does. I mean, in private equity, we tend to invest in the market, in the business metrics, in the potential, and in the team, which is the last one, versus in VC, where you basically invest the other way around. And most of our investments were mature companies where we had professional CEOs coming in. Some of them were entrepreneurs, and those were the most difficult cases, I must say. Firstly, there's some magic involved in having an entrepreneur build a 500 million pound yearly business. How did they get there? What exactly did they do? If we remove him, will we lose that magic? Will we lose the business? But very, very difficult to work with, because in an environment like private equity, you always need to be in control of the assets. So you need to have a great relationship with the founder and the management team, and work together and build the value creation plan together. So working with founders is not easy. Vanity stays in the way, I guess, of growth and of value. I think whenever we would hear about an investment involving a founder, it would always be, a much more difficult story to sell versus a professionalized, like mercenary type of management team coming in, delivering value, leaving after 5 years with a nice kind of incentive in hand. So
It's interesting. As you're speaking, I'm thinking of so many of these cases of founders. So I was mentioning in the presentation that 77 of our companies are unicorn valuation. It's actually 83 now, because it's evolved in the last few months. But that vanity metric is not important. The important part is when these investors come in, and how that perception is. I mean, these founders have grown their companies from day one as founders or co-founders, and all of a sudden they grow and they become this 700, 800, 1 billion plus company. Now it's private equity that's actually coming in. The game changes completely. They want to professionalize, but they still want to be the founders, and it's a thing. You were talking about having founded 3 companies, so the sense that you must have had to professionalize those companies and had to. So you can tell us a bit about your story from the founder perspective.
Yeah, look, I think we as founders, I think we, there's a lot of vanity involved. I think, and that gets to you, because in reality you have to chase a belief that it's not funded on numbers in the beginning, right? So it's like me and Sergio, we would do tens and hundreds of pitches where people would tell us it's impossible to build this, right? And so there, in those days, you trade on belief. You do not trade on pragmatism, right? So, and what happens is that, obviously at some point the company needs to start growing. You're starting dealing with, enterprise customers. I remember when you've done Bank of America, right? And these guys, they expect, a certain level of service and a certain discipline and a certain security around the business and governance and so on. And I think if you've been exposed to that, you learn to appreciate and have more esteem for people who come in and they have the knowledge on how to structure a business. I mean, both me and Sergio, we've been incredibly lucky to work with good investors, but we try to leave a lot of the vanity at the door, because at the end of the day, as I said, starting companies is not that complicated. Having ideas, we all, have ideas, but it's how you operationalize them. And I think the sooner you realize you need help in order to build a global business, and that help can come in terms of, resources, that come in terms of, value teams, they can come in terms of, experience and so on. The quicker you realize that, the more equipped you are to deal with the complexity that's coming down the line. But I think even so, when you become like, it's one thing realizing that, is the other thing containing it, right? Because all your body muscles will tell you that you have to trade on the immaterial stuff, because this is how you build the team, this is how you build the company. And I think Marius would agree with me. It is like, there is no linear path of growing a company. It's always going in hiccups, right? It's like, so in reality, you're starting the company a couple of times. And when that cycle comes where you have to restart the company, you have to trade on beliefs again and faith and rather than numbers, right? And eventually at some point the curve flattens and the two realities, they become more overlapping. So I don't think I've met a number of people. I think it's just the body muscle that they while you appreciate and you have esteem for people, I call them smarter people than me. There's also in entrepreneur there's this way of basically working without necessarily a map or without evidence, right? That's why I'm telling you, is like starting is not complicated. Well, I'm sure that for a lot of people, they will say it's actually very complicated to start because I don't know that, I don't know that, I don't know that, I don't know that. But that's not the point, right? This is like you're focusing on the wrong things. So yeah, I think I think leaving the philosophy aside, I think you need to be able to understand that the bigger the company goes, the more professional, experienced people you need. A company doesn't live just on culture, doesn't live just on dreams and visions. It lives on execution, now more than ever.
It's interesting because as you're talking, I'm thinking about the role that you've played when you were at UiPath with people. But actually, more than talking about that, there's one thing that I wanted to
I didn't chicken out. I stayed for the layoffs also. So.
For the hiccups.
For the hiccups, yeah, and it was a massive one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm going to pick up on something else that you mentioned and bring it to this room. No, I mean, we're here in London with a lot of people that are either Romanian or connected to Romania, and it's the importance of diasporas, no? The importance of the Romanians that are connected to their home countries, and either because at one point they will move back, they might not move back, they might stay here, but they might be connected, but they have networks that they do connect to their local to the local ecosystems. You mentioned when you were talking about what you're how you're investing, is that you're not investing in Romania, you're investing in Romanian founders. Yes. So that essentially means that you're investing a lot in those diasporas, no?
Yeah.
A bit more about, we can dive into that.
It's just because of the way Tech Angels is structured, and again, kudos to my colleagues for having thought of this in the first way, in this way. The application process to get financing from Tech Angels is an online process, and it's a butter spread. It's the same for everyone. So whether you're applying from the UK or the US or Romania, you're going to go through the same steps. So what happens is that we end up having about 300 applications per year. About 200 of those are by, I'll say, Romanian and Moldavian founders, because Moldavian founders also kind of seek us out. So 2/3. And many of those are from Romanian founders or co-founders who are established abroad. So oftentimes what happens is that you have a founding team where there's one Romanian, and as they're seeking capital in the very early stages, he or she says, there's also this way we could go. This being said, I don't know for now. I'm hoping to learn, and it's one of the reasons I'm here. I don't know how the Romanian diaspora can better work and what we can do together, how we can get better at flexing this muscle. I will admit during my UiPath days, I was a bit jealous of the Hungarian or the Bulgarian diaspora. Especially the Bulgarian one. Maybe it's just a feeling, and please contradict me afterwards if I'm wrong, but I don't have the feeling that we're doing such a good job as them. And I think there are a couple of reasons for that. I have, coincidentally or not, chief people officers of VPs of HR of several large tech companies in this world have been Romanian. I don't know if you know, but the Google one, Romanian. Facebook one, Romanian. So, and I got to meet them, thanks to our wonderful investors. And I learned something. These are people who had left the country, one of them before 1989, and one of them had left the country for a really long time. There's a love and hate relationship sometime with the home country or with the country they were born in for Romanians who have left, depending on when they left and depending on how they left. we have, unfortunately, this history of essentially kicking people out before 1989. And that has not helped in building, a healthy. Now I've met people who are trying to reestablish, to rebuild these bridges. It takes two to tango, so we need effort from both sides. It's a very large diaspora. We're talking about 4 million Romanians living abroad. I was surprised to find out just how many there are in the US. It's astonishing. It's probably 700, 800,000 people just in the US. I didn't know there were that many. I thought it was less. London, the UK, I hear, is more than 1 million people right now, Romanians, across the UK and across all kinds of jobs. I'm not talking tech here, but I know that's a small country. That's half of Estonia, isn't it? That's more than half of Estonia. That's like 30% of Moldova. That's a lot. And we're still. I feel like we still have work to do. I don't know if you feel differently. Please contradict me on this.
Yeah, definitely. In the PE world, we don't see as many Romanians. We're starting to see more Romanians.
Okay.
And I think in Romania, there's a growing VC ecosystem, but I think there isn't really there's a start of a PE ecosystem. But a private equity in Romania is something like 20-40 million assets under management. That's really, really small. But I think, in the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to see, a growing ecosystem across everything, and more entrepreneurs, more investors, more of the whole ecosystem. It's about the students, it's about legal, it's about the entire structure to enable Romania to be on the map. And it started with UiPath, I guess, and hopefully it's going to continue. Just to balance on the positive side, there are a couple of really great things about Romania as well. So one, the talent, especially tech talent, and it's still at a fairly good price, I guess, starting to rise, but you can still find really good tech talent in Romania.
You actually have the highest chance of finding the right talent in Romania, because right now, as we speak, it's the country with the highest density of technical talent in Europe, period. So
backed by
simple
data.
as that, backed by data. Yeah, it's 230,000 people in IT and C across an active population of 5.5 million people employed. So it used to be, I believe, France who held the top spot for many, many years, because they've got these very large numbers of graduates in IT and C, of course, for larger population, but this has flipped, and Romania is now 6th largest in the world in terms of density of talent. I'm not talking about the gross number of people, but the density of...
I think it's super relevant. Yeah.
But it is very, very relevant compared to, it means there's a higher chance that if you throw a small rock on the street, you're going to hit a developer. Hit an engineer.
And the more controversial one is on tax.
Yeah.
And although you'd say it's a volatile system, still it's really a tax haven if you compare it to France or the UK.
There are some interesting hacks that people can actually apply when they think about maybe going back to Romania and opening a subsidiary there. Stock options, anything that people in Romania make out of stock options is actually treated as capital gains, not as a salary benefit, which can be a huge mechanism for incentivizing people. And now they've, after UiPath happened, now that FinTech OS is happening and other companies are doing well, people are starting to get it, like the importance of stock options, and they're starting to ask for it. And you have this very important leverage if you come back to Romania to open a subsidiary. It can be a subsidiary; it doesn't have to be the mothership company.
I'm being told that we have to kind of wrap up, but I will, unless there's a question. But there are 3 things that I do want to talk about. One is, there is a positive side to diaspora in the sense that I think that Migne was trying to come in, and Katlin were trying to convene 50 people, and we're 60 plus. So this is a good sign. This is a good sign already. The second one, you mentioned that you've been leveraging a lot the diasporas as well to be able to connect with those founders. No, yeah. So there's definitely a story there. So they're connecting with you. And the third one is that I think that we're in a celebration mode today. No, so I think that there were people holding champagne glasses today. So there were 2 champagne glasses here. So. Congratulations.
Happy birthday, sir.
and Sergio has been so kind that there's actually champagne for everyone.
And there is a new wave of cooperation. and communication and building together with a Romanian-based and Romanian-linked ecosystem of startups, of businesses, of everything that has nothing to do with the government, hopefully. Except for taxes from time to time.
Thank you so much for hosting this panel. I think we're approaching the end of the kind of formal part, but I wanted to say two more things. We've done this thing together with the help of a British person who is very Romanian by his passion, and he wants to say a few words. Where are you, David? Oh, David, sorry. Hi, please.
Thank you, thank you. So I'd just like to add my thanks to all of you for being along today. My name is David Webster. I'm the managing partner of Global Tech Connect. But in addition to that, I run the Romanian program within that. And in fact, we are just about to publish a report which covers a number of the themes that were discussed tonight. So that is that's a technology report, Understanding and Advancing the UK-Romania Opportunity. That will launch at the Palace of Westminster on the 12th of June. And then we'll follow that up with some events in Romania the following week. I'd also like to thank a number of the people in the room tonight who have contributed to that report, including, of course, Endeavour, who are one of our key partners within that. So thank you, Mine, and thank you, Endeavour, for all your support of that. So I think that's it, really. Let's get on and enjoy the rest of the evening, and happy birthday, Sergio.